Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of Think Outside Yourself. I'm your host, Brendan Chalucci, and with me today is my good friend, Jay Jennings. Jay, welcome. How you doing today?
So, Chooch, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So a little bit about Jay. Jay was born actually in Shimonoseki, Japan, for those of you that don't know. He was a two-sport athlete at our high school. He played soccer and ran track. He was so good at soccer, in fact, he ended up playing at LaSalle University, and he was a goalie there. He is now an assistant media marketing director for the New England Football Club's Western Division. And he's at UMass Amherst, where he majors in sports management and is approaching beginning a double major in data analytics. So good luck with that, man. Couldn't be me. But so I'm really interested to hear about your new job. You told me a little about it. So with the New England Football Club, what are your responsibilities and what are you most excited for?
Yeah, so I'm basically kind of in charge of running our social media and I would say marketing the club basically. Basically focusing on the Western Division, like you said. I'll be responsible for highlighting players and what the teams are doing throughout the season and creating direct mailings for us as well, kind of getting the club out there, exposing the youth to soccer, stuff like that.
Are you really excited to kind of continue your career through soccer, even because you grew up playing it?
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing I'm most excited about is growing up, you see football players and basketball players, they always get the commitment posts or the videos and all the posts and stuff like that. And soccer players, we got none of that love. You have to scour the internet to find someone to do that for you. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to, kind of giving American kids the chance to see the better side of soccer and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's pretty cool. I didn't think of it that way. I'm really excited for you to do this, man. And going from this, is there another step you see yourself taking and to more responsibilities in the future with this club?
Yeah, probably. I haven't really thought about it too much because I just started, like you said. But I'd probably maybe become a goalkeeper coach next season or something for yeah, and then probably continue the social media stuff. So that's really it for right now.
That would be so cool. I'm so excited for you. And last question, when it comes to the New England Football Club, if you had an opportunity to work for any football club in your future, obviously you're starting here, but let's talk about the overseas clubs. I know you're big into.
If I had to pick, I have to be a homer and say Real Madrid for sure. That's the home club, home team, all of Madrid, so all the Madristas out there. But Real Madrid for sure. That's always been my favorite club growing up, so I'd have to default to them.
That would be pretty awesome, man. And let's dive into soccer a little more. You played it your whole life, and we talked about this a little while ago. We've always talked about the differences in sports and stuff, and obviously we talked about the most challenging positions in those sports. So you talked about it a little bit. Do you think being a goalie is one of the hardest positions in sports, and what are the biggest challenges of being a goalie that people who don't play soccer might not see?
Right. Well, obviously, like you said, we had this discussion or argument, I would say, before. And I'm biased, obviously. I would definitely say goalkeeper is definitely the hardest position in sports because, one, you're reacting to someone's kick that's over 100 miles per hour, and it's the biggest net in any major sport that a keeper has to save compared to hockey or lacrosse. You're in charge of the whole back line. Everything's moving. Really, you're in charge of the whole midfield too, kind of. Everyone hears you.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I would say is, if not goalie, I would say corner is the second hardest, just because all the physical demands it demands of you. But if you mess up as a DB, right? Sure, it could be a touchdown, but it could also just be a big game. But if you mess up as a goalie, it is a goal. It is one goal and you're down.
That's a good point.
If you're down a goal, it's, in my opinion, it's harder to score a goal than it is a touchdown. So, I think goal is the hardest and most mentally demanding as well. Maybe not most mentally demanding because that would probably be QB. I take that back. But goalie's the hardest for sure. Goalie's the hardest for sure.
No, I did agree with that, and I know we talked about like goalies in other sports too, but it is a good point that you have a lot of ground to cover when it comes to it, and that was actually another one of my questions as well. So you have you don't cover a lot of the goal, so you're when it comes down to something like a penalty kick. What's going through your mind at that point? Like, what's do you have? Is it more of a I'm just gonna pick a side and go, or are you gonna react to what the shooter is doing? What is it?
Right. It's a little bit of both. What you said. It's like you got to know the player's tendencies. Like obviously you don't play the same people all the time, but throughout the game you're watching that player. If they like to go right, you kind of obviously all right. You just make up your mind. You go right. But if you don't really know the player that well, you kind of just before they walk up, I like to look at their hips because wherever their hips go, usually that's where the ball goes. And if you can't do that, you got to have a predetermined side because you don't just want to stand in the middle. That's kind of the worst thing to do. But, so, yeah, like you said, if you don't really know anything, you just pick a side and wish for the best.
Mm-hmm. Do you do like scouting reports for other players as well? Like probably like the guys that are most likely to take free kicks and stuff like that on like their tendencies?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. In college, you used to, just write up on the board. They show the film afterwards. Like, he likes to knuckle a bar. He likes to bring it up over the wall, go left. Some people like to go under the wall. So, yeah, some people definitely have different things, and the coaches are all over the tendencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really like asking you these types of questions because we, like in the United States, obviously, soccer isn't the most popular sport. We have baseball, hockey, football, basketball. Do you think soccer is a little overlooked in the United States?
Yeah. In the U.S., for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's growing by the day, and I mean, our women's side is insane. They're beasts, so they got it covered. But the men's side is definitely lacking, and just overall, it's just lacking in the U.S. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just, I mean, I know the problem for the U.S. is that our best athletes on the men's side don't play soccer, so that's one of the bigger issues. But besides that, I don't know. I feel like soccer, definitely has a bad rap, and I personally don't know why. I find it more interesting than, no offense, baseball or some other sports that are super popular. So I really don't get it, but it's growing for sure. Hopefully, it gets better.
Do you think that? Do you know of any ways of maybe that could make soccer more popular in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the marketing for soccer over here is a lot different than the NBA and NFL. Like the NBA and NFL, they have a good, I guess, like social touch on what's going on kind of. Now, obviously not with the problems that the NFL has with like the whole cabinet thing, but I'm saying like marketing wise, like they market like t-shirts or stupid jerseys, like they change the variations of jerseys all the time and all stuff like that. So, like, they got a good grasp on that. So, whereas soccer, like, sure, they have so many different jerseys, but they're not released over here like that. So, I don't know, maybe just getting more in touch with that side of the market, I really don't know. Other than that, just, I mean, keep displaying all the World Cup games that are about to come up, the Champions League going on right now. So, they're putting the commercials up for that. So, I don't know, stuff like that, really.
So, let's talk about your soccer career a little bit. I know that you played it your whole life. Unfortunately, your career was cut short due to injuries. But what do you have a certain like moment in your past where you thought like that was my game? That was the game that I'll like never forget.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple back in high school, and I mean, it was throughout all my life. I remember one crazy game in middle school in Voorhees, but probably the craziest one would have to be spring of LaSalle. We were up at Penn State, and I just came back from the shoulder surgery, so I was kind of like iffy on like where I was at. And I didn't start the game because it was a spring game, so like each goalie got a chance to play. And so I played towards the second half, like probably like 3/4 of the second half. And then about like midway through, the Penn State just started going crazy with the shot. But I saved every single one of them, and that was like my first like real like time like recognizing like, all right, I'm back from the shoulder surgery, like I can do this again. So that's probably like my favorite soccer moment, even though it wasn't like the biggest game or anything like that. But
it like affirmed your confidence in yourself coming back from that injury.
For sure.
So let's dive into those injuries a little bit, if you don't mind. I was I know that you've had the shoulder surgery and you've had concussions in your past. Could you talk a little bit about like the feeling of not being able to play and like what motivated you to come back each time?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks not playing, obviously, because you want to be out there and stuff like that. But the
Hmm.
worst part is probably just like hearing everything, like, oh, he's hurt again, or like, oh, he's out with this, he's out with that, and like your teammates are like, oh, we need you this game, but you weren't there. So that's probably the worst thing, and that's the same thing that motivates you too. You want to be
Yeah.
there for your teammate and for yourself too. You don't want to always be labeled as someone that's going to be not available or like hold yourself to like a certain standard. So I don't know. Those are probably the worst parts. And then like just when like the people like close to you, like Conrad would always get on me about like, yo, you're always hurt, blah blah blah. Like, yo, where you at? Where you at? So like I would always just have to come back just to prove him wrong. Like I just needed to shut him up and stuff like that. So yeah, he served the motivation for me to come back for sure, for sure.
Yeah, DB touched on it a little bit as well when I had him on a couple weeks ago, where it's just the fact that like knowing that your brothers, your team, your family wants you out there, it's so important for you to like have that motivation to come back. It like kind of that them like kind of not needing you, but like wanting you to be back is motivation enough at the end of the day.
Right. And another thing I would say that motivated me to come, like, keep coming back, even through all the concussions and surgery and stuff like that, was like all the sacrifices people made for me. Like, as you know, I stayed with the Williams for like half my
Yeah.
high school career. So, like, I didn't want to just like throw that away, kind of, like, I didn't want to let them down or my family down too. So, just stuff like that. So, yeah.
That's nice that you like. It's a very like humble way of going about it. Very selfless.
Yeah.
And so like let's talk like for people that are battling with injuries. Like, do you have any like words of encouragement for those that are struggling? Like, I know a lot of times when you have, especially long term injuries, you can get like, especially like surgeries, you can get like kind of in a dark place, in a lonely place. What would you say to those for like having words of encouragement?
Some words of encouragement or just some advice really is it's cliche and all, but you really have to do everything possible, like in that time span of your rehab and everything to make sure that you're gonna get back right. And like I say that one physically, obviously, but two mentally. Like for me personally, I didn't take my rehab too seriously. As like I'm mad lazy, and the past was even worse. So I didn't take that crap seriously at all. And like, so I was like, oh yeah, this injury, like, I'll be fine, blah blah blah. But like, it took me a while. Like when I came back, I was garbage, and I was like, what is going on? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's probably because I didn't take my rehab seriously. And
Hmm.
then like, I don't know, mentally that kind of like got me because it was just like, damn, like you didn't try your hardest to get back, and like I'm now not able to play. So now I always think back like, oh, if I try my hardest, like, what would have happened, blah blah blah. So you want to give yourself that release mentally too. Like even if you're not okay physically, like mentally you give it your all, and it just didn't work out sometimes. But yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense a lot. And like speaking on that, like if you could go back in your soccer career or at least talk to your younger self, what is something that you would tell them or something that you would do differently throughout your career?
Definitely tell myself to stop being lazy and take take more take more time out of your day to just add to your craft. Really, I feel like I definitely relied way too much on my athletic abilities and just
Yeah.
whatever I was given at the start, and from there I didn't really hone it too much. And I feel like that's probably the biggest thing I would tell myself for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's that idea. It's just there's always more work to do. There's always like, but you can always get better. So one last question, and this is like the MJ and LeBron debate for soccer. So give me your opinion: Messi or Ronaldo, and why?
I've always been a Ronaldo fan, so I'm going Ronaldo ever since day one. I mean, I get the argument. Messi is definitely the more versatile player. You can play him in the midfield. You can play him up top, outside, up top, forward, false nine. I get all that. But Ronaldo wins wherever he goes. That man wins. You could put him in the English fourth Premier League with the worst team in his prime, and he would win. I promise you. Messi had the best midfield in his prime, and even later in his Barca days, he had a crazy stacked team. Ronaldo has had stacked teams, but I don't know. He's always just been like it for them. Like whenever they need a goal, it's Ronaldo. Whenever he needs
Yeah.
Ronaldo. And you look at international play, Ronaldo's always had the better international career, and I think that's because winning. Messi's had the better teams, I would argue, with Argentina, but Ronaldo just somehow gets it done with Portugal. So,
Dude, that's always what I was curious about, was because like when Messi was like kind of in his prime with Barcelona, it was like probably 3/4 of the Spain national team when they were like really, really good too. So I always kind of like, when I got into the argument, I don't know too much about it. That's why I wanted to ask you, but I feel like Messi's definitely had like some pretty amazing teammates behind him that have been able to feed him the ball, that he's been able to feed the ball to, and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was definitely assisted by Xavi and Iniesta way too many times for my liking, but it's whatever. They're both great players, and I'm a Ronaldo fan.
I got you. Well, now we're gonna move on to another sport that you love so much, and that's basketball. So, going to the NBA, the season's just started. What teams and players are you most excited to see this year?
Ooh, like we going like young teams, or we going like just in general, like whatever.
Just in general, like I like.
All right. I mean, obviously, our Sixers. I'm a big fan of how the Raptors play basketball, just with how they only play wings, college players like Siakam, and he plays center for them. So that's really interesting to me. The Pistons interest me with their young core. I want to see the Mavs and Luka, just how his heliocentric basketball works this year. Who else? The Nuggets, I'm interested to see because they got all their players back and back-to-back MVP. The Nets, just because they're a comedy show. Other than that,
they are
the obvious big market teams. But yeah, those are probably the highlighted teams I'm looking forward to watching, and the Pelicans for sure.
What about the young stars? I mean, obviously, unfortunately, LeBron is getting to like that generation's kind of getting into like the later years of their career, but we have new guys like Trae Young, Ja Morant, Luka coming in. Who are you most excited to see? And also, who do you think could be the next face of the basketball?
Okay, so the young stars I'm excited to see. Ja, obviously. I'm excited to see Zion, how he comes back. He looks great so far. He had that little posterior hip injury, but it looks like he's fine. Who else is out there? Luka, obviously. I want to see how that works. I already said. I'm interested to see how De'Aaron Fox does this year. He's starting off the year really hot, and he's shooting like 40+% from three, which is kind of wild. But I want to see if that's going to maintain. But yeah, those are probably the young guys I'm looking forward to watching this year.
Nice. And actually, we have our first question from the audience. Shout out to Taryn and DB. They wanted me to ask you this. So give me your opinion on Draymond's role with like the legacy of the Warriors and like your prediction for his future.
Okay, so Draymond, I'm not the biggest Draymond fan, but like over the years I've grown to appreciate what he meant to the Warriors.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's obviously a cornerstone of their franchise, no matter the quadruple fucking singles or whatever, but like all that aside, he's a good player, and he means like the energy he brings and the defensive ability that he really shows is really underrated. Like he's arguably the best defender within the last 10 years of the NBA, in my opinion, arguably. But like now, I think he's a little over the hill, and the Jordan Poole situation obviously has struck the chord with the franchise and some of the players. I think his road with the Warriors is coming to an end. Just with all the contracts they have, and
especially with how young Jordan Poole is too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they just signed Wiggins for a steal, so maybe Draymond will take a crazy pay cut, but I don't see that considering I think a different team like the Pistons or like some other team like the Lakers maybe would pay him a lot to come play for their franchise. So I think he's gone personally, but he does mean a lot to their franchise. Not so much anymore, but I mean, he still means a lot more, but definitely not as much as he used to mean back in their prime days.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger and I didn't like really look in depth at like the game of basketball, like I would just be like, oh, Draymond's trash. But honestly, he like plays such a big role for like the legacy of the Warriors. He's kind of like, he's that guy that will jaw with other people. He's the guy that he's kind of like, how I look at it is like kind of like a modern day, in like a different way, but like a modern day Dennis Rodman to like MJ and Pippen. Like he's not gonna score all the points, but he'll help the the scores score. So
Facts. And yeah, one more thing I'll say is like the one thing that it's like overlooked that Draymond does is he's
mhm.
like low key their point guard. Like Steph plays point guard for them. But when you
Yeah.
watch them play, Draymond will bring the ball up maybe 50% of the time. And
Mhm.
then from there, he'll make crazy passes from inside the key and all that stuff. So that's a big part that'll be interesting to see if he leaves, how Steph will kind of take that role back. And like, so I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the biggest question besides his defensive impact for me if he does leave.
You can definitely tell he's like the leader on that team, even though he's not the most like talented player. He definitely like
Mm-hmm.
leads the team in a good way, and like they have a good dynamic around him. So like you said, I'm interested to see it as well if he does leave, how they're able to continue that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now I know you look really in depth to basketball and all that, so I want some predictions out of you. I want the MVP. Who do you think? The
Mm-hmm.
defensive player of the year and your finals predictions.
Okay. Um, NBA, all right. The NBA awards are really, they're a lot more political than people think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that into my equations. So I'm going to say Giannis will be the MVP because,
Really?
yeah, Jokic fatigue is, that's gonna hit.
Uh-huh.
Embiid doesn't look right this year.
Okay.
So I don't think he'll do it. The Mavs and Luca, I mean, yeah, he has a shot because it's just him, but I don't know how well they'll do in the standings. Like, the
Yeah.
standings really matter. Like, you
Mhm.
got to be top four really to kind of be like, all right,
Well,
he's
yeah. You
MVP.
also have to think like it is. When do they choose the MVP?
MVP, they vote on it like in the playoffs, they give it out.
Like throughout the playoffs. So like you kind of like if a guy's just at season ends before the playoff even starts,
Yeah,
it's kind of not. He's
yeah, it's
not as
kind
much
of
like, taken into account. You know.
exactly. Yeah, like they kind of did that to Jokic this past year. I'm pretty sure he went back home to like Serbia, and then they like flew it over there to give it to him or something like that because he got kicked out of the first round. But yeah, I would say Giannis is the MVP because, I mean, he won it back to back already, but like that time is kind of like evened out in between them. So the Giannis fatigue's kind of worn down. And I think the Bucks are gonna be crazy this year.
Yeah.
So that's my MVP. DPOY, that's tough. They gave it to Marcus Smart last year, which is kind of controversial because guards don't really impact the defensive side of the ball as much as bigs do, so they say. But I mean, since they did that, I personally think Drew Holiday is going to win it this year.
Drew
Just
Holiday
'cause,
is so underrated, dude.
yeah, very
Even when he was
underrated
on the
defender.
Sixers, he was so good.
Yeah, insane. I'm pretty sure he's clamping Kyrie right now. Last I checked, Kyrie was like 1 for 5 in the game they're playing right now. And he's clamping Kevin Porter the last game, and Kevin Porter gave him 50 last year, so that was like a
Oh,
thing
that's
between
yeah,
them.
it's a good bounce
Yeah,
back.
and I think he motivated that Marcus Smart won it, and he's the first guard to win it since GP. So I think Drew Holiday is going to try and do that this year.
All right, well, you guys heard it first.
My
So,
prediction.
what do you think about our Sixers? Do you think that we have a chance at the finals this year?
Before the season, just like everyone else, I thought we had the best offseason acquisitions in the league. But right now, that's really not looking well. Daniel House can't hit a shot to save his life. Montrezl Harrell looks like a traffic cone on both sides. Anthony Malhin's like, he's like okay right now. I mean, our perimeter defense sucks, so we have a lot of things to work through, and I'm not the biggest Doc fan. So
Okay.
based on all that, I would say no, we do not have a chance to win the finals this year, sadly. So, yeah, that sucks. Especially because I'm in Boston, and they look really crazy right now.
They did.
So
They do look good.
that sucks.
So, who do you? If obviously the Sixers don't win it, who do you think has the best chance of winning it?
Well, like I said, I think the Bucks are going to
Yeah.
be really good this year. And personally, if they were healthy last year, I think they beat the Celtics. So I'm going to go with the Bucks to come out of the East. And out of the West, it's between the Clippers and the Warriors for me. I don't know. The Warriors,
You don't think the Suns have a chance?
the Suns are good. They're good. But, like, at the same time, after what happened last year, That was horrible. Losing to Luka like that, I don't know if you can come back from that.
Yeah.
As many regular season games as they win, I don't care. I don't want to hear it. So until they prove to me otherwise, no, I'm not picking the Suns. But the Clippers have an iffy track record so far, so
Yeah.
I'm rolling with the champs until the Warriors get back. So yeah, Bucks versus Warriors. But my dark horse pick, if I were to have one, if the Nets can figure it out, I think they go. And then I think the Pelicans have a shot somehow.
Really?
Yeah, I really like their squad.
They're I mean, obviously we're in like a day and age of like super teams and stuff like that where you need like at least 3 legit players to make a contention, but I think theirs is very underrated with
legit, man.
CJ, Brandon Ingram, and Zion. It's a pretty legit 3.
Yeah, man, it's a wings league, and they got 2 great wing defenders. Bi is not great, but I'd say he's good. But Herb Jones is probably the best wing defender in the league. And they got a sleeper wing on their bench, Trey Mann. He's gonna be really good. So I like the Pelicans. I like the Pelicans a lot.
Well, we're gonna transition over to a little basketball game here. So we're gonna do our all-time starting 5. So point guard, shooting guard, small and power forward, and a center. And you get the first pick. So whatever you want, go ahead.
Word. Just clear something up. I think I might have said Trey Mann. He plays for OKC. I mean Trey Murphy. He's one. Okay. Anyway, my first pick for all-time starting 5. You already know who it is. That's Bron.
It's gotta be Bron. All the old heads are gonna be like, "You didn't pick MJ," but
man.
Oh, it was funny because in the first episode, I wanted to bring up LeBron with Adam, but I was worried he was going to go on a rant for like 20 minutes about how LeBron's better than Jordan.
I think, honestly, I can only say the only person that loves LeBron more than I do is probably Adam, that man.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. All right. Well, for my first pick, I guess I'm gonna have to do. I gotta go MJ at shooting guard.
I mean, no problem with that. My second all-time. All right. I'm gonna go with KD.
KD? Ooh, KD. That's a scoring team right there.
Yeah,
all right.
Go with KD.
I'm gonna get the big man out of the way. I'm gonna go because I didn't know when you were gonna pick him, so I'm gonna go Shaq. I gotta go Shaq.
I was on the fence about picking him. But that's a good pick. I was gonna have to change the way I think about making my team. Because I was gonna low key get Giannis and play him at the 5, but as good as he is, he's not handling Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to go a big man, give me Hakeem. Give me Hakeem Olajuwon at the 5.
All right. Let me think. All right. So we got MJ that can score, and we got Shaq down low. You know what? I think I'm gonna have to go with Curry at point guard.
That's my next pick. Shoot. That hurt. All right. That's fine. Guess we're playing LeBron at point guard. Give me Kobe. I'm going Kobe.
See, this is why that's why I did not want to pick MJ because I didn't want Kobe.
Yep, used to do the same play. Damn near.
All right, all right, small forward. I'm gonna go with Larry Bird.
Okay. Now LeBron's playing the point guard for me, so I would have to fill the 3 spot. You got Larry Bird at your 3.
Mm-hmm.
This might be controversial, but wait, do you have a 4-man? Do you have a power forward yet?
No, I do not have power forward.
You do not. Okay.
Is that what you're picking too? I kind of lost track.
I don't. Nah. See, I'm going position with basketball, so I'm kind of losing it. But either way, I'm gonna go with Tracy McGrady as my 3-man.
Ooh,
Controversial, but I'm going with it.
I get it. I get it. I understand that. I mean, dude was a bucket.
Fuck it.
Drop. How many points did he drop in that? What was that one game where
It
he
was
dropped
13 points in like 8 seconds or something.
like
It was
eight?
like 8 points in 13 seconds. Something crazy like that.
Yeah,
Something
the most.
wild.
I think that was the most insane like sequence of
Yeah,
like.
that sequence of events was
It was
wild, bro.
ridiculous.
Wild.
All right.
Wild. And it
Uh,
was against the Spurs, which makes it even crazier.
mhm. All right. I gotta do power forward now. I'm gonna go Charles Barkley.
Hmm. Hmm.
Charles Barkley.
Okay.
Another little big body down there.
I feel you. I feel you. Can't disrespect Charles.
No,
So
no, no.
Charles. He just
All right.
got
Well,
banned.
what I'll do is I'll post our teams and we'll see what the audience likes more.
I'm
Um,
mopping the floor. I'm mopping the floor.
well, so I mentioned at the beginning that you were born in Japan, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So, what was it like? Obviously, your father's side of the family is African American. Your mom's side of the family is Japanese. What was it like growing up with such a unique heritage?
It was cool. It was cool. It was definitely cool, but so it was a challenge when I was growing up, just because like I grew up over here in America, so it was obviously I was a little different than everybody else, and like it was. I used to go by Taiga, as you know. That's probably
Yeah.
the first time I started really getting pissed with my Japanese like heritage when I was over here, and then like
Uh-huh.
everyone would call me like Taiga or Tigger or whatever. So after kindergarten, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going by J. Like, I'm done with that. So yeah, that was hard, and it was also hard because like elementary school, like you would learn about like Pearl Harbor, and in middle school, like you would learn about like the events of Pearl Harbor and like deeper depth. And like
Yeah.
people would be looking at me like I was one of the goddamn kamikaze flying thing. I'm like yo, I wasn't a part of this.
That wasn't
nothing.
me,
But,
man.
like,
That wasn't
yeah, that's
me.
what I'm saying. Like, chill out. It's not my fault. But like, yeah, growing up, like getting that like weird look, especially with already being African American, people wouldn't assume I would even be African American. They'd be like, oh, I thought you were like Cambodian or whatever. But people would just treat me different because I looked like a certain way or whatever. But I probably didn't start appreciating my Japanese heritage until like high school or like, yeah, probably high school when I started like being comfortable with my own skin. So,
Mm.
yeah.
And do you think you're more in touch with your Japanese heritage or your African American heritage?
I mean, I would definitely say African American. I mean, I listen to rap and hip hop music, follow sports. I mean, yeah, just I'm definitely way more in touch with that side just because I live over here as well. But I mean, I feel like I definitely do need to get more in touch with my Japanese side. Not that I'm not in touch with it, but it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt to be more in
Oh,
touch
for
with it,
sure.
I guess.
So, have you been back to Japan since you have been born?
Yeah, I've been back a couple times. The most recent time I've been back though was 2018. Yeah, 2018 when my grandfather passed away. But besides that, it was great being back, seeing all my family members. Just being back in Japan really brings back a lot of great memories for me, and it's peaceful, just because it's like a place where not really anybody knows me, but I know the area super well. So it's just like really refreshing for me in that way. So yeah, I love being over there.
Yeah, it makes sense. Do you? What are like some of like the biggest changes you see, or sorry, differences between like American culture and Japanese culture when you like go over there? Is it like a whole different world?
Yeah, it is very different. Like as soon as you step off the plane, it's a whole different world. I mean, probably the biggest like societal norm that's different from like Japan to America is like the just like how clean it is over there. Like everywhere is so clean. Like the subway is clean, the buses clean, the streets clean. The busiest cities are all clean. And like here, it's not like that.
Not like that at all,
It's a
bro.
mess everywhere. And like when you go over there, you really appreciate that side of like the Japanese
Yeah.
culture. And other than that, I mean, Japan is very like everyone's polite over there, and they mind their own business in a sense. So it's very I like it better in that aspect than over here. I feel like everyone's looking at you or judging you in some way. Like obviously, I catch a few looks in Japan just because I'm 6'2" and black, and I'm just walking around, like so it's a little different. But like it's not like they're looking at me like like
In a
I'm like
disrespectful
a
way.
weirdo. Yeah, it's just like, oh, like there's a different looking guy there. Let me just move on with my day. Compared
Yeah.
to here, they just like keep staring at you until you like get out of their eyesight. So I don't know. I feel like that's different. And like people are more like polite over there, but like I wouldn't say it's polite because I would say like to themselves more so. So
Mhm.
like I like that too because I'm the same way. It's like not rude or anything, but just to myself. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It seems like it's so interesting to hear about the different dynamics in different countries. I read this book once, and this guy was talking about his trip to Russia, and in Russia, apparently, like they are like completely blunt about anything. Like let's say you go out on a date with a girl, and she's not having a good time. If you ask her if she's having a good time, she will say no. That's just how their culture is.
Respect, respect.
What? Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, tell me now instead.
Facts. Tell me now.
But yeah, learning about that stuff is so cool. I definitely want to go to Japan at some point. It seems like such an interesting country. Are you planning on going back sometime soon again?
Yeah, for sure. Me and Conrad and both our mothers, we were supposed to go for the Olympics when it was over there, but COVID hit, so that didn't happen. So, I mean, the next time we're probably going is maybe like next summer or 2 summers, something like that. If
Mhm.
not then, I kind of eventually want to go with like just a group of friends maybe. So
Yeah,
like the gang, everyone wants to slide. Just let me
dang.
know. Let me know. Let me know.
That's not. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I know I'd be down. But
Yeah, that'd be
so
great.
you touched on it a little bit, but for those who do not know, so Jay's father lives in Boston, and his mom, while we were in high school, lived in Japan. So he stayed with one of our good friends, Conrad Williams. Shout out Conrad, for the duration of high school when he went there with us. So I want to know, what was it like spending most of your adolescent life in another family's home?
Yeah, that was probably the most interesting experience of my life so far. Having to stay with a whole other family, kind of deep into, not deep into, but like, midway through your high school like career, it's pretty interesting. Luckily, I was decently familiar with the family I stayed with,
Yeah,
so that was great. And over time, now they're basically my intermediate family. But yeah, it was definitely a transition at first. When I was first there, I kind of just like, as you know, I'm to myself. But like
yeah,
when I first got there, I was very to myself. Like I was like shut the door to my room. I was in there like all the time to the point where like I would only really talk to Conrad,
yeah,
and then like Conrad, like probably like 2.5 weeks, like he came to my room one day, was like, "Yo, you gotta like start coming outside." Like Trish is getting worried that Trish is getting worried that you're like messed up or something. So I was like, "Oh my bad, my bad." Like let me start integrating myself into the family. So
yeah.
yeah, that was probably the biggest transition for me. I would say just integrating myself into someone in like other people's homes and like their customs and stuff like that. So
I mean,
yeah,
anytime you're in someone else's home, you want to be like obviously respectful and stuff.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
not like walk on eggshells, but like at least like
Uh,
kind of make sure that you're respecting like what's around you, you know? So
yeah,
like
for sure.
how long do you think that took for you to like kind of, I mean, obviously by the time we were seniors, you and the Williams like we're literally like family. So
Yeah,
how long did
right.
it take you to like kind of get to that point?
Well, so when I actually first got there, the Williams, like the parents, they weren't home. Like Ray was like out on some big time lawyer thing, and then
Mhm.
Trish was doing her thing like in California. So when I got there, Conrad wasn't there either actually. So for like maybe a week, it was just me and Harrison and like Chase. So
Oh, well,
like
that
I
was
got kind of, yeah, that was a wild time to get
yeah, that
integrated
must
into
have been a
things.
little
So
weird.
yeah, it was a little weird, but me and Harry got close in between that time, so that was cool. But then when the parents came back and like school started, it probably took me a good like I would say like 2 months to really feel comfortable and like kind of be myself a little
Hmm.
bit. But like I think a big part of like what helped out was Conrad being in the same grade, obviously, and just like once I started living there, like I started dating Jalen too, so like she was always over and all that. So that kind of like helped integrate like the whole like family dynamic type thing of me like kind of just asking, can people come over? Like, can I do this? Can I do that? Like,
Yeah,
so I would say it's probably like 2 months in. Yeah.
it was. It's. I mean, obviously, it's nice that the Williams family has like four kids too. So like, there's always something
Uh,
going on there. It's not like it's like you're the only one that and like you feel like a liability or something like that. There's always something going on at that house.
Yeah, for real, bro. For real.
So, going back to your parents, I'm honestly just out of curiosity. Have you noticed any differences in like how the public treats your mother as opposed to your father due to the fact that they're two different races?
Yeah, I yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I would say we definitely get treated differently. When we go places with family, my dad gets looks of like who are you to her? Like, oh, that's your wife. Like once they say me, they kind of put it together. But if they go somewhere together, it's kind of like a big like staring thing. Like, what is that big black dude doing with this little Asian woman? So
Yeah,
like, and like the way they get treated, like if my mom would go to the counter, people would treat her like kind of like she doesn't know anything or like she's some like clueless Asian lady and stuff like that.
yeah,
But I mean, that's really opposite. When I'm probably like the smartest person I know. And like when my dad goes to the counter, someone they're like immediately like so scared and like, oh my god, this is so intimidating, blah blah blah. So like yeah, definitely those are probably yeah facts. Just the whole 180 to how they get treated like in
yeah.
public, I would say. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, going back to your career, I know, like, obviously, I know you do want to work in sports and stuff like that for your future. So, what types of jobs would you ideally pursue in your future?
My dream job would probably be like a big time like athletic director for like a school or something like Ohio State or like Alabama,
Ohio
something like
State,
that.
yeah.
You already know. Shout out Buckeyes. Shout out Buckeyes. And then my second or my like big dream job would probably be like head of scouting for like a front office NBA team.
Hmm.
Yeah, scouting is probably my biggest dream job right now.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Do you know, like, the steps you would maybe want to take into, like, obtaining those goals? Have you, like,
Um,
thought about that yet?
Yeah, for the athletic director, the steps I'm taking right now would just be I'm doing like an internship for the school here, the athletic communications, just like learning game day ops, how to like delegate different roles to different people,
Yeah.
stat keeping and all that stuff like that. So I think that would help me there. And with NBA scouting, I'm trying to get in touch with the basketball team here and kind of serve as an intern for them as scouting, and then behind that, take care of like ticket sales and like traveling scheduling and stuff like that. And then I've also connected with like that person who plays that role for them right now. Her name is Tatiana Vasquez, and she's kind of helped me kind of take the right steps into leading to where I could be in her position next year. And then besides that, I would think about participating. I haven't accepted the offer, but participating in the virtual academy for Atlanta Hawks, virtual scouting academy, like I told you guys. So yeah, that would be something that would really help me towards that. But that's the kind of a big responsibility because they ask you to like relocate if they do like you. So
Yeah.
I'd have to like relocate to a different spot. So I'm thinking about that right now. But yeah, those are probably the steps I'm taking right now that hoping would lead to my success in the future.
No, man, that would be pretty special. That would be awesome.
For real,
So,
it'd be crazy.
out of curiosity, what is like kind of led you to be so passionate about the idea of scouting in the NBA? I mean, obviously, growing up with you, I knew you were more into soccer. What drew you to basketball so much?
Yeah, I get that question all the time, and I'm not gonna lie. I don't even think he knows this, but he might. It's Adam. I always attribute it to Adam.
Really?
Growing up, yeah, growing up. I mean, obviously, like you said, I played soccer, and being black in the black community, that's like, why are you playing soccer? You play
Yeah.
games, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it, so I stuck with it. But
Mm-hmm.
like the black culture is like basketball and football, so more towards I gravitated more towards basketball. And I don't know, probably in the seventh or eighth grade is when I really like I was a basketball fan before that, but that's when I started getting into like the high school basketball scene and like Andrew Wiggins, Marcus Levette, all their mixtapes. Me and Adam used to
Yeah.
watch those all the time and just play basketball in Adam's backyard. So yeah, definitely those are the core memories that got me invested into basketball so much.
That's awesome. Who do you think
Yeah.
has the best mixtape that you've ever seen?
Best
Is it,
mixtape that I've ever seen.
is it John Wall?
It's John. Yeah, I was about to say probably
John Wall is
John Wall,
crazy.
John Wall, Marcus Levette, or Andrew Wiggins. That's my top three right there.
Top three.
Y'all never seen those mixtapes? Go check them out right now. Crazy. Crazy.
um, That's all. That's awesome, man. And so another question I have for you right before we get to another game I got is what would it mean to you to be a part of like basketball and that much of like with that much like power behind it? Like how
Right.
would it be like a dream come true essentially?
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it would mean everything, whether it be big time collegiate athletic director or like head of scouting for NBA front office. I mean, for me, like now those are my dream jobs, and it would mean so much to me just because my first dream was obviously playing pro, but like obviously after college and all the injuries, I never got the chance of that.
Mhm.
So now I do have all the resources and all the tools and like all the opportunities now, and I do have the chance to kind of take the next step into the career that I want to do. So kind of just like I said in the past with coming back from injury, just proving to myself that if I like work hard and do all the right steps, that I can get to where I need to be eventually. So
That's
it's
awesome.
more so the self like affirmation type thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to like NBA scouting, I know you watch a lot of games, a lot of like you said, mixtapes, a lot of I'm looking at like a lot of stats. So, what are some of the things that may jump out to you, or things that you noticed from like a scouting perspective that people who just watch basketball on like a daily basis wouldn't notice?
Right. So I mean, the one thing like the eyes for talent you either have or you don't is probably the first thing I would say. But the second thing is if you do have an eye for talent, you look for translatable qualities and skills. Like if a player can shoot or has good mechanics, that will always carry on to wherever they are next. If
Yeah,
they're a great athlete, then they will have that and it'll always carry on next. Or if they can really dribble now, then they'll have that. If they can dribble, pass, shoot, that's really what you want to look for. If they have those, then you start looking at measurables, how they move. I think agility is probably one of the biggest things in basketball. Being able to create your own shot has a lot to do with agility and like the spatial awareness and stuff like that. So you gotta really look for stuff like that, I would say. And besides that, I mean, the athletic abilities, obviously, and then when you're privy to having stats and stuff like that, you obviously use that to help your arguments and your belief to why you think that player is worth the investment. So, yeah.
do you think when scouts like look at a player and they see the things that are important, do you think they take into account like that player's character? Because obviously there are in all sports there are an array of characters. There's like good dudes, there's crappy dudes, all that stuff. So do you
Right.
think how much of a how much does like their kind of draft stock or like investment depend on their character, do you think?
Right. I think it matters to an extent. Like, if you're a top 10 player, it matters that much, maybe.
Yeah.
But if you're maybe in that second round range, then it matters a lot. Or if
Mhm.
you're like the lower lottery or lower first round, it'll matter more than it will for the top 10 pick. So it matters to an extent, but once you get on the professional scene, that's when it matters. But also not really because you look at organizations like the Hornets, they have, in my opinion, they have a troubled history of kind of not being able to pick players that have the right behavior
Yeah.
traits, a la Miles Bridges. We got Montrezl Harrell on the Sixers now, but he was arrested for certain things. And
Yeah.
their squad kind of has that persona of a bunch of James Booknight, just people who don't have their shit straight, essentially. And then you look at like the NFL organizations like the Browns, they give Kareem Hunt a second chance and they give Deshaun Watson the biggest contract in guaranteed history. So it's just like certain organizations do care, certain really kind of don't. They just look at the player
Yeah.
and what the skills they can provide for the club. So it's kind of a give and take type thing. So yeah, but I
100%.
think it matters though personally.
I think it should matter more. I like unfortunately sometimes it doesn't. I was in the fall league last year, and one thing the pitching coach told me, he was like, you need to understand this because we're playing with like some of the top prospects in baseball from all of like the from all the organizations,
Yeah,
and he's like, you need to understand like you're going to have shitty teammates. You're going to have terrible dudes on your team. But at the end of the day, if they help the team win, they're going to be given that opportunity. And it's like, it's an unfortunate fact, but it is a fact. Like the
It's
team's
bad.
going to put the best player out there, and
Exactly.
it's a business, you know.
It's a business, man. Exactly. It's a business.
All right. I got another game for you, and it's a basketball food chain. So I'm going to give you two players, and you got to tell me which one you'd rather take. Let's talk. Let's say just in like a starting like an organization. You
Okay.
like which of these two players would you take? So
Are we
we'll
taking
start-
them in their prime or right now?
See, that's what I was when I was writing this up. I was thinking about it, and I was like, should we do prime or right now? I'm gonna say, let's do prime to make it interesting.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
So first one, they're not really in their prime yet, but Anthony Edwards versus Zion Williamson.
Oh,
It's a tough one. I know. I wanted to start you off.
tough. That's tough. Now the impact on winning, I say you guys put Zion, but the injury scares and all that. I'm taking Anthony Edwards just because
Thank you.
injury
Okay.
scares and all that. Then I mean, it's a wings league, and he plays in the wing, and I think he'll be one of the best wing players in the future. So I'll go Anthony Edwards.
I think he's going to be really good too. He's hilarious too. He's awesome.
Yeah, and he's just the best. He's just the best.
All right. Next, Anthony Edwards versus Brandon Ingram.
Oh man, that's tough. Bi is a killer, a stone cold killer, and he's low key really good defensively. Got great length. Sheesh. I think Anthony Edwards has higher upside, but I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna stay with Anthony Edwards. Never mind.
Really?
I'll stick with Ant. Yeah. I'll stick
Wow.
with
Okay. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest.
I'll go with Ant.
All right. Well, next one. So we got Anthony Edwards again. Anthony Edwards versus Jimmy Butler.
In their prime, huh? Starting my franchise. I think I could get further with Anthony Edwards in his prime than I could get
Wow.
Jimmy Butler. I'm taking Anthony Edwards.
Wow, that's
Anthony
interesting.
Edwards.
So let me ask you something. There's but on a side note, there's obviously a huge discrepancy between Jimmy Butler in the regular season and Jimmy Butler in the playoffs.
Right.
What do you think that is due to?
I just think it's due to certain players don't really. It's an 82 game season, so
Yeah.
once players get their recognition and they get that max contract and they get all that, I think certain players kind of know their body more to say, or they don't want to kind of waste themselves in the regular season and be iffy in the postseason. Jimmy does that. Kawhi is a big
I was
proponent of
just
that.
about to say, yeah.
So certain players do that. I'm not a fan of it, but I see why they do it. But I think that's a big part of it. And the second thing, I would say more in Jimmy's aspect is he just doesn't it's not even that he doesn't try, but like you said when we were texting, he kind of just plays down to the his level of his teammates that are around him. It's like, come on, man, just like you're better than damn near anyone on the court, so just do it. But I don't know, it's weird.
And that's what's interesting too, because like he plays up to the level of everyone else when it comes to the playoffs, too. So I guess it more just kind of matters who he's playing at that time. All right, so taking Anthony over Jimmy Butler. Let's go Anthony Edwards versus Paul George. Prime Paul George.
Give me Paul George.
Okay, good.
Give me prime Paul George.
Yeah.
I love
prime Paul George. Pre-injury.
If he never got injured, I
bro.
think he was coming, man. He was really coming.
Oh my God, that hurt. That hurt my core when he got
it. Me, man. I remember where I was at, exactly where that happened, man. That shit was crazy.
I think one of my favorite basketball highlights of all time is like before any of like Curry's like logo shots or anything like that. When Paul George is like right by midcourt and he just goes, stop. Switch. Oh my God.
It's an all-time moment. That's a
crazy. All right. So Paul George now. We're going to go Paul George versus Jaylen Brown.
Give me prime Paul George, man. Give me
Agreed.
prime Paul George.
Do you think Jaylen Brown is the best player on the Celtics?
No.
No.
I'm a firm Tatum guy.
Tatum guy.
Firm
I
Tatum
know you're a
guy.
big Tatum guy. So I was just curious
Firm
about that because obviously I know you thought that Tatum was hurt during the playoffs, but last
Mm,
year, and that was when like Jaylen Brown really started to like kind of shine as well.
for
So
sure.
there was like obviously that comparison starting to come up.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I agree. Tatum's really their guy, man.
it's a cute little argument, but Tatum is that boy. I don't care. Tatum is the one. Tatum is the one.
Did
Tatum is the
anything
one.
did anything come out about him having an injury eventually, or
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said with. I want to say he said with Taylor Rooks that he was dealing with a little something, but
yeah?
I don't think he made it that big of a deal because he didn't want that excuse thing. But yeah, I think it did come out that he has a little something.
That would be like I mean like when you play through injuries, it's like it's ballsy. Like obviously to do that, but like if your team loses, you can't just be like,
Oh,
"Well, I
I'm
was
good.
injured," so
Yeah, if you're out there, you're healthy, man. If you're out
yeah,
there, you're healthy.
you can't have any excuses. So we'll go Paul George. All right, Paul George versus Trey Young.
To start a franchise, I think I could get further with Paul George being my best player on the team. Yeah, give me Paul George. I think Paul George. Yeah.
All right, we're getting into the stars now, the big stars. Paul George versus James Harden, prime James Harden.
This is so tough. This is so tough. So this question, if I start a franchise and I'm in charge and I get to pick which one, give me Paul George.
Really,
Give me Paul
Jay? Oh
George.
my gosh! Wow. I mean, I love Paul George, but and I'm not a big James Harden fan, even though he's a Sixer now. But like him in his prime, he's one of the best scorers of all time.
No doubt, no doubt. But if this question is if I'm starting a franchise and I get to pick the pieces that are going around these players, I think I would have a better chance of forming a championship team with Paul George as my centerpiece than with James Harden. He just does more on the defensive end, better athlete, can guard the other team's best player, and damn near just as good of a shooter as James. So I think I go with PG.
That's surprising. It's interesting. All right, Paul George versus DeMar DeRozan.
Paul George.
Paul George. I agree.
Paul George.
All right, Paul George versus Kyrie Irving.
Paul George.
You think so?
Yeah.
Do you think Kyrie Irving's name has kind of been tarnished a little bit because of like the whole not getting vaccinated, him thinking the Earth is flat?
Yeah.
Kind of like his character, essentially, what we were talking about. Do you think like people look at him a little differently in terms of like greatness?
For sure. I think he's definitely tarnished his legacy to his own doing. I mean, you say dumb stuff like the Earth is flat, and we don't need a coach, and then you have one of the worst expected big three seasons of all time. Like, I don't know, it just looks dumb. I'm a big Kyrie fan, so it sucks, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like, he's cold, but he's just stupid. Like, he just looks stupid. Like, the stuff he says is just like, for how intellectual and how smart he is, it's just like, bro, come on now. Wild.
It's like he's like the Kanye West of the NBA, low key.
Damn near.
Damn near. Not as bad, but
yeah, not as bad, but you're getting there.
All right, Paul George versus Kevin Durant.
KD.
Yeah, you have to.
KD.
Do you think KD is top 3 scorers of all time? Yeah.
He is the best scorer of all time, in my opinion.
I mean, 7 feet and being able to shoot like that's pretty hard to defend.
He can get it every single way, any way possible. It's crazy.
He's really a freak, man.
Freak.
All right. I know this one. Kevin Durant versus Joel Embiid.
Kevin Durant. Not even a question.
I think you're. Wait, so actually, I'm interested for you to share this for our listeners. So, a lot of people in Philly, including myself, were very upset when Joel Embiid didn't get the MVP last year. My argument for it was when you have a guy like Jokic who puts up ridiculous numbers, but at the end of the season, I feel like when you win back-to-back MVPs, what you do the next season has to be something even more spectacular than year before. And I know he set some records, but his stats were pretty close to the same. So, would you mind sharing why you think Jokic deserved that MVP over Embiid?
Yeah. Well, once your stats thing, yes, his counting stats weren't that much better, but the deeper stats, like the on-court stats, or I'm not going to pretend to know like warp and raptor and all that means, but like all those stats were so much higher when Jokic was on the court, and when they were like the plus minus was like so much different. It was like negative plus minus when he was off the court. And I mean, just like, yes, like Embiid's numbers were better than Jokic's, but like I would only say that his scoring numbers were they're identical. Their rebounding numbers are almost the same. I could argue Jokic is a better rebounder. And two, the assists, it's not even close. Jokic is the best playmaking big I think of all time.
That video you sent us of Jokic, if you guys haven't seen it yet, look up Jokic, like some of his best passes. Because his court vision is ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, he can see over everyone, and his passing skills are just top notch. So yeah, perfect combination. But like, I just think that the MVP discussion, I think Jokic just deserved it because that team, like his second best player last year was Aaron Gordon, and like so like it's like how is that making it? Like they made they were the 6th seed, I think, or the 7th seed or something like that. And I mean, in the West from like last year, that's really tough to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a walking 50 wins a season type of player. So, and like with Embiid, if you just slap Embiid on a team by himself, I think they're a playing team at best because he doesn't affect, like, he can't bring the ball up the court all the time. Not the best playmaker. So, I mean, Jokic just does it all, in my opinion, compared to Embiid. Embiid's a great player, but I think Jokic is like generational, like we'll never see it again type thing.
I feel you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so back to the game. So I'm gonna preface this. The next one is KD versus LeBron James. However, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do LeBron now, because like I know LeBron's prime, you're taking him over everyone. So we'll do LeBron now.
That's nice. So this is KD in his prime compared to LeBron now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to be a fool. I'll take Kevin Durant.
All right.
I'll take Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant versus Jason Tatum.
Give me Tatum, man.
Really?
Yeah.
You think Tatum is in his prime yet? No,
and that's why
he's got like another level to reach.
Yeah. I said last year, like I'm not gonna say I said this, but podcast I was with Kevin O'Connor saying they were a year early last year, and I was like, I like debated in my head, but like, yeah, they're right. I think Tatum's 24 right now, something crazy like that.
Maybe more than 25. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like wild, and like I just think that if you don't hit your prime in basketball, so like you're like 27, 28.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's definitely got some years to go, and I just think he's so good. He's Kevin Durant-like, but I mean, he uses his body better than KD in my opinion.
He's a lot bigger too, yeah.
Yeah, he's just bigger, and defensively, he might be the best two-way. I said it last year. I know Adam knows. I said it last year. He's the best two-way player in the league now. Tatum is the best two-way player in the league right now, in my opinion. Wow. So I would take Tatum.
Interesting. All right. Tatum or Devin Booker?
Tatum.
Agreed.
Tatum.
I don't know why. I'm not a fan of Devin Booker. I just like.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about him. I'm just not a fan. But all right, Tatum or Dame Lillard?
That's a question, but I'm going Tatum.
I know you would. I love Dame, bro.
Dame. Gotta respect and love Dame. Gotta respect and love Dame.
All right, Tatum or Ja?
That's a good one because I really value what Ja means to the Grizzlies. Like he just carries them year in, year out. Ever since he got there, he's led them to the playoffs. So I really value Ja. But I always take the bigger player, so I'm gonna go Tatum. I'll go Tatum.
Do you think Ja's defense is like valuable enough to compete Or would you base that basically like do you think Ja's defense is valuable enough to compete with Jason Tatum's defense, or do you think it's just his offense that makes that decision competitive?
Leading up to this year, I would say no, because last year Tatum showed the defensibility and Ja didn't. But this year, it's only like a 4-game sample size for the Grizzlies. But this year, Ja looks insane on the defensive end. So I think he can start making that more of a conversation. But for me, like I said, it's a wings league, so I always take the wing over a guard. So I'm going to Tatum.
Gotcha. All right, so we're still with Tatum. Tatum or Luka?
Oh, damn. Oh man, that's tough. Give me Tatum though.
Really? Oh,
Now,
I mean,
I don't think. Let me just preface this. I don't think Tatum is the better player right now, nor do I think Tatum will be the better player in the future. But I just think the way Luka plays, he plays like LeBron did, but like a heliocentric way. Like they just have the ball all the time, pound, pound, pound. I'll make the decision every time I play court. I'll have the ball 90% of the time. But like LeBron was athletic, and when he was off ball, he could do stuff. Luka, when he's off ball, he's not the best shooter, and believe it or not, he really isn't the best shooter at all. And off ball, he's not athletic, so like he just can't do as much as LeBron did. So playing off of a player like that is a lot harder than people realize. So I think being able to mold a team around Tatum is easier than it would be Luka. As you can kind of see, Tatum's been to the Eastern Conference Finals how many times? And it's not just because he's the best player, but it's just really easy to mold around a player like that. So I would take Tatum.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to add in is, like, obviously it's a team sport. So having, like, a guy that a team can build around and create a dynamic for is obviously much more valuable than having, like, one guy who's a superstar, you know?
For sure.
All right, well, we're continuing with Tatum. So Tatum versus
Curry. I would have to take. I mean, I just think Steph, right? I mean, you can't not take him.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Do you think Steph's the top five player all time?
Top 5 player of all time.
I think he's got the accolades.
He's got the accolades, and I mean, for me, I've always said he's the best player under 6'6". So with that, yeah, maybe. Like, I mean, my top 5 is always fluctuating, stuff like that, I would say. But yeah, he definitely has. Like, I wouldn't be mad at anyone for putting him there.
All right, and last one, Curry versus Jokic.
As much as I love Jokic, it's been proven what Curry can do.
Yeah.
So I'll take Steph.
So Curry's the top dog right now. All right, well,
Curry's the top dog.
So you talked about it for a sec. So give me your top 5 right now. Top 5 all time.
All time. LeBron is 1. Mike is 2. KD is probably the second best player I've ever seen with my eyes, so he's in there.
I think you're the first I've ever heard KD top 5.
I just really respect what he can do. For me, I'm going to go Magic in there. I really value big guards that can just do anything on the perimeter. He wasn't the best shooter, but his impact on winning is unquestionable. 5. I'll show love to a guard, and I'll put Steph in there.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll put Steph in there.
I like it. It's like a modern vibe.
Yeah, more modern vibe.
Do you
I'm not
think
a big proponent of bigs, so yeah, I'm a big.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said I'm not really big. Like, a lot of people have big men in their top 5, but I'm not a big man value type of guy. So yeah, I'll go with those 5.
Do you think guys, like, for example, those big men, like Kareem or Will, guys that are considered like the top dogs of all time, do you think that they would be able to play the game today and have like the same results, the same stats that they did back then?
Yeah, I think that they would. I mean, great players in any era are able to adapt, in my belief. So I think that they would find a way. I mean, I don't think it would be the same type of domination, but they would dominate in a way that they would still be Hall of Famers and valuable to their teams. Yeah, I think so.
That's really interesting. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and all your basketball wisdom, all your soccer wisdom. I really appreciate it, Jay. And if you wouldn't mind finishing off with a mantra or a quote that you live by.
Say a mantra I live by. I would just say it's keep pushing. I mean, throughout my life, it's just like a lot of moments where I thought, like, oh, I'm not going to make it out of this situation, or, oh, this sucks, what am I going to do now? But, like, I feel like as long as you really keep pushing, keep your minds where it really needs to be, and just keep building on these stack days, just stack days, man. Just stack days, and you'll get through it, and you'll eventually end up where you need to be. So, yeah, just keep pushing.
That's awesome, man. I really like that. Like I said, Jay, thank you so much. And to all you listening, thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for having me, Chooch. Really appreciate it, dog.